That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Lucy and Desi, the first documentary to be directed by Amy Poehler, which premiered at the 2022 Sundance Film Festival and was released by Amazon Studios March 4th, 2022.
So we're a little late. I enjoyed this documentary.
I did as well.
It's pretty straightforward. We basically get a nice snapshot of the rise of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz as individual entertainers when they meet, get married, create I Love Lucy, the success of that, them purchasing a studio.
Desilu, yeah. They're creating their own and then purchasing
creating their
archival.
own, merging, yep. Then their divorce and the last, so I would say, quarter of the documentary mainly focuses on Lucille Ball's career after I Love Lucy. So it's pretty straightforward. I felt like it was very comprehensive, mainly due to the biggest feature of the documentary are these cassette tapes that have interviews with Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. So 80% of the documentary is from the mouths of these two people, combined with a lot of visuals. So it feels very complete. I don't have much to say, except I think it would complement the film, Aaron Sorkin's film, Being the Ricardos.
Yeah.
It would complement it very well. This documentary, I would say, 2/3 of it encompasses, well, maybe 60% of it encompasses what we saw in Being the Ricardos.
Yeah, but you can also see where liberties were taken in Being the Ricardos, because the Nicole Kidman film is set around a particular week that collapses her pregnancy on the show and being interviewed after Walter Winchell accuses her of being a communist based on registering.
Yeah. In which order would you? I think a person would watch Being the Ricardos first and then the doc.
Agreed. And I felt very much the same of watching at Sundance this year Call Jane and then the documentary The Janes is this fictionalization and again the liberties taken and then learning something much more comprehensive. I think if you're a fan of old Hollywood, but it's significantly of Lucille Ball or Desi Arnaz, this is must-see viewing. And I was surprised that Amy Poehler did this. I know she's directed a couple films, Wine Country and Moxie, neither of which I've seen. But, this is really a superbly edited documentary.
And I found myself I was a huge fan of I Love Lucy as a kid, watching it on reruns. And I think it's been so long since I revisited their work beyond watching Being the Ricardos. I forgot how much I enjoyed that show and seeing so much footage from the show. And it really does focus on her comedy. It was just such a joy to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I got kind of teary a couple times in this too. It's, going back to, it's so easy to forget the context of the 50s and being a woman and being in an interracial relationship and, listening to her, as you said, talk about how she was just in love with this man and the fact that he was Cuban really wasn't a thought in her mind initially, but how everybody else put everything on it. But just how revolutionary this was for how TV productions were filmed. I think we forget that because this was the first time that we had a live audience and moving cameras.
Multi-camera,
Yeah, and how it was...
on film.
Yep, on film. And then because of her pregnancy, reruns. In syndication and then just what they were able to accomplish with Desilu
in a very short amount of time.
Yes, it's just very impressive. But also getting a lot of talking heads coming together to speak about, because towards the end of her career she was fostering other female comedic talent. So you have Bette Midler and Carol Burnett, and then you get snapshots of Mary Tyler Moore, somebody else I'm forgetting too, just that who she was the trailblazer for.
Yeah. What else do you have?
And then we get a lot from their daughter, Lucie Arnaz.
Yes.
Which I thought was touching too, because you could always read between the lines of what people are saying, and to me it felt like she was very close to her dad, and she beyond her nursing him to his death, through his death. But there's a lot of poignancy and care taken in that as well. But shout out to the editor, Robert A. Martinez, who I know got a lot of attention for editing the recent Bee Gees documentary as well. But just very well done, going through snippets and photographs, and it's always a joy. I was familiar with Lucy, I Love Lucy as a kid, but I have also been obsessed with cinema from a young age. So I kind of concurrently was into Lucille Ball in her Queen of the Bees period, because she was in a lot of film noirs. Particularly, I was a fan of Douglas Sirk's Lured, and then of course Henry Hathaway's The Dark Corner. It's just funny to see her outside of that. But disappointingly, I kind of wanted Amy Poehler to touch on Mame. Because she remade Auntie Mame, and there's no mention of that. I guess, why would you? But yes, I love all of the old footage, the little snippets you learn here and there from Charo, who shows up.
That's right, yeah.
And how Lucille Ball is explained as not this natural talent, but that was fostered into being what she is, alongside the likes of Ginger Rogers, who I'm also a fan of. But
and we're spending a lot of time on Lucille Ball, but the documentary does share equal time talking about Desi Arnaz and his career and his mastery because they talk about how he ended up becoming, unbeknownst to Lucille Ball, her husband was actually a great producer.
Yes, yeah.
And so his business acumen, and there is a lot of time spent on that. And it is equal up until the divorce, and then we really focus on her. But I would say, 2/3 of the film, it's equal between the two.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's interesting to hear him speak to, and kind of how after they divorced, how he kind of lost his joy in it too, and kind of drove himself into the ground, which is why she bought him out and took over, and then would eventually sell to Paramount, if you will. That's what she did. One of my notes was, because we did recently see Being the Ricardos, where you get the writers behind the scenes. Bob Carroll Jr.'s eyebrows, oh my God.
I thought he was a handsome man, but his grooming situation was interesting because he had Eugene Levy eyebrows, and then he had a weird sort of chin strap situation.
He looked like Max von Sydow in playing the villain in the is it Buck Rogers or
I think I know what you're talking about. Anyway, I thought he kind of had a cute little look to him, but
he looked like he was in a Bela Lugosi film from
True.
Yes, and Being the Ricardos only touches on so much, but I liked, you get a little bit more of her doing the radio play, My Favorite Husband, which was the reason Lucy got off the ground. And also Wildcat, that Broadway show she did where she's singing. They have footage from that, which looked interesting. But yeah.
Have you gone through your notes?
Yeah, I believe so.
What would you give this documentary?
Well, it was written by Mark Monroe as well, who wrote the documentary The Dissident, which I would say was worth checking out. I would give it 3.5. I
thought it was very good. I don't think it breaks any new ground, but it is very well done. I would give it 3.5 out of 5. Thank you.